Hi, welcome to the video on how I fought a $1,500 hospital bill and lost. But you're going to learn the lessons I learned, and you can use these lessons to lower a future medical bill or an existing medical bill that you have. Alright, let's dive into the story of how I got a $1,500 medical bill. So around a few months back, around September of 2021, I started to get a lot of numbness and tingling in my legs that did not go away, and it also spread throughout my body. So instantly I went to a neurologist, and then they ordered a MRI from my brain as well as my cervical spine, which just think of it as your upper spine. And I was understandably very worried, and I was looking around to see which hospital or provider could actually offer the soonest available MRI. The original provider that I was supposed to go with was scheduling like a month out, so I went over to the USC Keck Hospital where I'm already a patient, and I've seen doctors there. And they were able to get me scheduled for an MRI within like a week or two. So for me, I thought that was pretty awesome because it was very prompt, and the reputation of USC Keck in terms of their service is really good. I went and got my MRI done, and within a few weeks, I got the insurance claim that listed out how much I owed. And when I saw the amount, I had to like look at it even more carefully because I couldn't even believe how much it cost. And for me, I had expected the MRI would cost around like $100, a few $100s, but I did not expect the medical bill to be $1,500. All right, let's dive into the breakdown of how much things cost. The hospital billed me $13,000.87. The in-network savings for being with my insurance was around $5,000. How much the insurance paid was around $6,000, so that left me with a total bill of $1,531.78. I think most of you who have dealt with the medical bill know this feeling where you look at it and you're just like, am I reading this correctly? Was that procedure really that expensive? And yes, the American healthcare system is a joke. Let's dive into the tips that I tried in terms of lowering my bill. The first thing I did was to make sure that my insurance calculated bill correctly. I wanted to make sure that they were applying my benefits correctly because I had a 20% co-insurance, meaning that the amount that was supposed to be paid, I would cover 20% of it, and the insurance would cover 80%. So after looking over my bill, I figured out that my insurance company did apply it correctly. In general, like, this is just the most basic thing. Just make sure your insurance company applied your benefits correctly and calculated things correctly. The next thing that I tried was getting an itemized bill. Every single medical procedure, whether you're getting an IV, a scan, whatever it may be, has something called a CPT code. And this is a unique code for every single procedure or action that happens in a hospital or doctor's office. So for me, I took a look at the itemized bill, I looked at the CPT codes to make sure that they were correct, and I wanted to make sure that, number one, did they assign the correct CPT codes? Because I've heard stories of people being assigned the wrong CPT codes for procedures that are more expensive than actually what happened. The other thing I was checking for to see is, were there CPT codes or procedures that actually didn't happen when I went to the visit? I heard there were cases where sometimes the medical billers mess things up and overbill you or add CPT codes for procedures that never happened. So I wanted to see if I was being overcharged. And in the case of having an MRI, basically I wanted to make sure they were using the right CPT code, because when you get an MRI, sometimes you can use contrast, which is a dye they use to basically help with the imaging. And for me, I refuse that because I think it's toxic. But the point being is I want to make sure I was billed the correct CPT code where it was for an MRI without contrast, not with contrast, because the ones with contrast are a little bit more expensive. In my case, I was charged correctly, so the next thing that I did was I asked for a price list. I wanted to make sure that what I was being charged was according to the price list of the hospital. I think it's law now, but I think every hospital has to list out the pricing for all their procedures. So I went to the USC Keck Hospital, their website, I got the list of prices for all the procedures and confirmed that it was correct. Again, I guess it depends on the hospital and the medical facility you go to, but sometimes I heard people make mistakes here or they overbill a patient, so just be aware. And it doesn't hurt to double check to make sure that you were charged correctly. The next thing that I did was I asked for a discount. I called the billing office, I asked for a discount. They said they couldn't offer it. They said the only discount that they could offer was the discount provided in the bill that was provided that gives you like 15% off for like paying a bill early and paying it in full. So this is something I actually wish that I had just asked to speak to the supervisor, because come to think of it, usually the people that are on the front line just answering the phones, handling the day-to-day questions, they don't really have the power to give you a discount, or they're trained to make things as convoluted and as difficult for you to possibly get a discount. The next thing that I did was I asked for financial assistance. Most hospitals have a financial assistance program, and even if you make a decent amount of money, I know it's relative, they said it doesn't hurt to apply because you could still get a discount. And then I went through the process of submitting a request for financial assistance. That got denied, unfortunately, but I thought it was worth a shot. The other thing that I tried was asking my insurance company to appeal the claim or appeal the bill from the hospital. They went ahead and tried to appeal it, but then I got a letter later on in the mail that said that the appeal failed. So again, this goes to the earlier point I said that if you want someone to make a decision on it, in general, like these hospitals, these insurance companies have these standards processes, but looking back, if you can find a way to really speak to a decision maker, someone that actually has the authority to negotiate and has that leeway to change your bill, that'd be even better, and that would lead to a better outcome most likely. The last thing that I tried, and what did not work unfortunately, but it was worth a shot, was I asked what the Medicare rate was, and I actually looked it up. You can look it up. There's a website, which I'm going to link in the description, or maybe it's floating around this video right now, about checking the Medicare rates for procedures. I asked what the Medicare rates were, and then I asked if I could be granted the Medicare rate. The Medicare rate is usually the more reasonable rate. Unfortunately, with the USC, they actually denied it. They said, well, if you don't have Medicare, we can't give you the Medicare rate. But I've heard that some hospitals and some facilities will honor the Medicare rate if you ask them. Okay, let's dive into my learnings. And I would say these learnings will help you lower a medical bill, as well as make sure your bill is not super high in the first place. First and foremost, if you are ever going to get a scan, like an MRI scan, a CT scan, anything with like radiology, I absolutely recommend that you go to a private radiology center or medical imaging center. Do not go to a hospital. Hospital prices are insane. So at USC, the cost for the MRIs is $13,000. At a private imaging facility, it would be a fraction of that, probably be like 25% of it approximately. So all in all, if you go to a private facility and not a hospital and you're doing imaging, by far you will save money. Like, you will definitely save a lot more money, because I don't know why hospital fees are just ridiculously expensive. The second tip I would give is anytime you do a procedure, ask if you can get a discount. It never hurts to get a discount or ask for a discount. The worst thing that they can say is say no. I want to give an example of how simple asking for a discount can be. There was one time I asked for a discount. I was getting a scan of my brain, and they were going to analyze how much brain volume loss happened. It's basically just a computer program that analyzes, how much brain volume did I lose compared to the general population. And the original cost of that thing was $500, but just by asking, can I get a discount, they lowered the price down to $200. Now for me, saving $300, that's a pretty damn good job on my part. So this kind of illustrates how sometimes just asking for a discount can go a long way. Ask if there's a cash price. The cash price is the amount you would pay, assuming if you didn't have insurance and if you weren't going to go through insurance. A lot of medical providers, for whatever reason, their cash price is way lower. And when I say cash price, it doesn't mean you're actually paying cash. It just means that if you're bypassing insurance, this is the price they would give you. So the cash price tends to be way lower, and I would recommend asking the facility you're going to for the cash price, because oftentimes you'll find actually it may be way cheaper than the amount you'd pay, even with insurance covering a portion of the healthcare bills. Another tip that I would give you that's stolen from a book called Never Pay the First Bill, which is a great book, by the way. I'm going to link to it in the description. I'm going to be honest, I actually haven't used this tip, but it's definitely worth a shot, because it's a little bit more focused on writing something into like all the documents that you sign when you're like going to a visit, and holding the hospital accountable to what you wrote in these documents. So they recommend you write this when you're signing forms, for your visit. So this is a clause that you should write in when you're signing the financial agreements, when you're going to like a doctor's visit, hospital visit, all that good stuff, and you're signing all the forms. And again, I'm going to link it in the description below. It's, I consent to appropriate treatment and parentheses, including applicable insurance payments, parentheses, to be responsible for reasonable charges up to 2 times the Medicare rate. Now, whether or not the hospital or medical facility is going to honor that is to be seen, but I don't think it hurts to list that into the documents that you sign, because at least you have something that's kind of in writing and you can reference back to it. So early in this video, I talked about the things that I tried and that didn't work, but I would actually still recommend you try that, because, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost you anything really besides a phone call and, asking for things, and it might actually still lower your medical bill. Alright, helpful resources. These resources may help you in your journey for lowering a medical bill and hospital bill. First and foremost, there are a lot of price checker websites. If you think the price you're being charged for a procedure is unjust, it probably is unjust by the way, go to clinicpricecheck.com, fairhealthconsumer.org. Again, I will link to these in the description. These allow you to look up the procedure that you're doing or have done and will allow you to see like the standard rate of these procedures. The next resource I want to give you are 2 books I absolutely recommend. One book I didn't read, but it just sounds good. But the first book, Never Pay the First Bill, I think is fantastic. It tells you exactly how to fight your hospital bills. And it goes into a lot more detail than I went into in this video on how to navigate an expensive hospital bill and how to really, lower the cost of it. The second book is by an author called Lori Todd. It's called Approved: Win Your Insurance Appeal in 5 Days. So definitely check that out. I heard really good things about that book. The last resource I want to give you is specifically for pharmaceuticals. Oftentimes, the cost of drugs themselves, not those type of drugs, but pharmaceutical drugs, are very expensive. So goodrx.com gives you coupons. So if you're paying for pharmaceuticals out of your own pocket, you're not using insurance. I don't actually know if it works with insurance. It's kind of worth a shot, I guess. But if you're paying for pharmaceutical drugs yourself, and they're very expensive, obviously, goodrx.com will give you coupons that will give you a huge discount. So for example, like a year and a half ago, I kept getting warts on my palm, supremely annoying. So I was getting this anti-wart medication because I went to a provider that was out of my network. They prescribed this medication, and when I went there, you know how much it costs? $300. Ridiculous, right? But by using a GoodRx coupon, I was able to lower it down to like $30. So for me, again, that's a huge savings amount for me. So there you have it. How I fought a $1,500 hospital bill, how I lost that battle, but what I learned and how you can use those learnings to lower your hospital bill. Now, I do really want to ask something out of you guys. Like, if you have any comments or feedback, please leave it down below. If you like this video, please just like this video, because then it really helps the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to subscribe to the channel to see any updates on how my health journey is going, click that big ass subscribe button below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.